What's up, y'all? Welcome to The Real and the Raw. I'm your host, Queen Renny. All right, y'all. Welcome back. You are now tuned in to The Real and the Raw. It's your girl, Queen Renny. I hope this week was nothing but success for you. And if it wasn't, I am sending you all the love and positive vibes. Like I said, thank y'all for tuning in. I hope y'all have been locked into this series. As y'all know, we are continuing on with speaking on mental health and all the things that come along with it, and just being transparent, real, raw, and honest. So I have another dope guest today that I'm so excited to bring to y'all and have her share her stories with y'all. So, before I have her come on, can you guess who's coming to the couch today? Can you guess who's coming to the couch today? Y'all, welcome my girl, my friend, Lily. Hi.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
What an honor.
Period. Y'all know she drove all the way from the Bay to be here today, so I am definitely appreciative. Okay, so I guess we could jump right in.
Yeah.
Just like kind of introduce yourself, who you are, what makes you who you are, and it could be professional, personal, whatever you want to share.
Yeah. So my name is Lily Jackson. I'm from the Bay Area and I'm a playwright.
Yes.
Really, I'm an artist, and I feel like my call is to not just create art, but also to create resources for artists to have.
Yeah.
So that's really what I do and who I am.
Period. Yes. Thank you. Yes. I think you're maybe, let me see, the third artist that I've had on the podcast, all in like different, what is it?
Genres.
Yes. So Saba, painting, drawing, and then you as a playwright, and then you write, period, like poetry, all those things, and then Mandela as like a musician, and you play the guitar.
Yeah, I play guitar. I feel like I do a lot of things like
multifaceted.
Yeah, like but what I want to be known for when I think about the legacy of it all is it's a playwright. Like, I love theater so much, you know what I'm saying? Like, even like how we grew up and your uncle telling you something about, you know, like that's theater. Like, that's
that's what we, that. That's
100%.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like how we learn stories or sitting around with our cousins talking about what we remember from when we were younger.
Yeah.
Like, it's theater, it's storytelling.
And that's like from our roots.
Yes. And that can't be taught. You know, you just have to be there, you know? And so I remember, like, my dad would take all the kids, and myself included, and he'll point to everybody on the wall and be like, what's their names? When's their birthday? Like, it was, like, even, like, 2 years old, like, knowing, like, great-great-grandmas and stuff like that, because it's, like, the characters, too, are important to our lineage. And
that is so true.
Yeah.
That reminded me of, like, so when I was a kid, my grandfather's mom, so my great-grandmother and my great-great-grandmother lived with us at a time. So when like I was a baby, I don't know, my great-great-grandmother passed away, I think, when I was like 1 or 2. Okay. But my mom said that like me and my sister used to get in the bed and pretend to be them. I don't even remember doing this, but like one would play one and one would play the other, and we would just like act like we were them, talk like we were them. So that reminds me of like how the importance of knowing your history, your lineage, but also being able to bring that forward.
Yes, that's acting theater, right? Like
my sister was a thespian.
Yes,
I feel like I could have done it too. I was too like, no, I'm just a basketball player. I limited myself.
It's never too late. It's never too late.
Yeah, I'm about to get in something with you and the kids.
Yes. I love that.
Okay, so thank you for sharing that about yourself, but like, how did, like, I want to go into like how we met, and obviously it was on like in the professional setting. So just so y'all know, Lily we work together at a youth development center. So she is our art department manager. So like what kind of things do you do or carry over at the center?
So basically, like I said, I literally am just living out my passion, really. I'm creating resources, artistic resources for the kids' development. Honestly, like just creating like creative development for them. Like, it's really beautiful watching them grow and watching them learn how to do things that, you know, like they wouldn't have been able to do had I not, been there. Like teaching them how to braid, Teaching them how
I learned how to braid in her braiding club.
Braiding is an art, right? It's a resource. Just thinking about our tradition and like
That's
using
so
braids as maps. It's also survival. It's a tool.
We put rice grains,
food, and just to grow those so that we know where we came from, right?
Yeah.
And so there's so many things in it, and then also just like it's a career. They can make money from it. You know, it's an extension of beauty. It's so much, and it's like what an honor to get to teach these like fourth graders, these fifth graders how to braid, and like just watching them grow at it and develop in it. It's just been so yeah. That's what I like to do. I like to make sure that artists, like marginalized folks, and specifically Black people, specifically have resources that they deserve, really, so that they can, you know, use their art to create the world that they belong in.
And thrive. Because I feel like a lot of times, and I think you've talked about this a lot, is that there's this stigma or misunderstanding of what it means to be an artist or what it looks like to be an artist. And a lot of times, like, when you tell your parents, like, I don't want to go to school, I want to be an artist, they're like, oh, you're not going to make any money. And, you know, it can be looked at as, like, this lazy, profession, and I think you do a great job of making clear to the students that like it's far from that, and you can thrive and make as much as you want, or you know,
it could just be for you.
Exactly.
And that's crazy that you said that, because when I declared my major as theater, like people would be like, oh, I wish I had an easy major, or they'd be like,
shade.
Yeah, the shade, or like one lady said like, oh, it seems like, because I posted it was the first time ever I had like got the dean's list, like, you know. So I posted my grades on Facebook, and I'm all happy because I always get like bad grades or C's and B's, you know. I got like straight. And then it's somebody gonna say like, oh, it looks like you took classes in basket weaving. And I'm like, do you know how to basket weave?
That's hard,
basket weaving is hard. It's a skill, and it's a skill that we need.
Yes.
And the trajectory that we're going in, especially how to make your own things. But I just was like so offended, because it's like people look at theater, and I'm like, have you ever written a play?
Exactly.
Like, have you ever written a play? Like, you know, so you can't say something is easy or hard if you've never even experienced it. And so
that's major key, because even I played a role in that. Like I said, my sister was a thespian. She was in all the plays and drama classes in high school, and like went to thespian camp and things like that. And I remember I would go watch her plays, and I don't know, at first I thought like, oh, this is, you know, anybody can do this. But then I got out there and I was like, they have to remember all these lines? That's what like kind of stopped me from getting into it. I was like, I don't think I can remember all these lines, and like
lines, blocking. They have to be in costumes. Sometimes they have to dance and sing. It's
I'm
not
like,
easy. And that's just acting. Behind the actors, there's a whole community of people making sure that everything, the lights are right, the curtains are pulled when they're supposed to be pulled, that there's a director somewhere, there's like so many people bringing that story together.
And the set design, like
there's
somebody
there's
designing the props, which like that takes a lot of skill.
And then there's a prop designer, so set design and prop designer. There's lighting, sound, there's a stage manager who's bringing all of it together. So it's a community. There's so many parts.
There's so many parts that people can play that I think they wouldn't really know about it unless they had someone to kind of share that and bring them into it.
And I had the church, so I feel like for me, I remember like being able to do like church skits or liturgical plays when I was in the church. Nowadays, kids they don't go to the church like we went to the church, so they're losing like professional singing, right? Like they're losing professional instruments. They're losing
the church choir.
The church choir. A lot of people learn their first instrument because they play. I learned guitar because my youth group didn't have a worship team, but we had a lot of singers, and so I would be like, dang, like. I already wanted to learn how to play guitar, but was like the fire under me was in my youth group. Like, I was like, I'm going to learn how to play guitar so that we can have our own worship service and I can play the guitar.
I love that.
And
I love that.
The church is it really is.
Yeah.
It really was. Anyway, it's like, you know, a lot of millennials aren't taking their kids to church as much as you know they used to, or like we went to church. That's true. For fair reasons. Like, you know,
no shade.
No
everybody
shade to everybody.
And you know, as a believer myself, like you can have church anywhere. So if you want to do that at home, then I completely understand. And I think too, like, that's how kind of our friendship sparked, is like just having those conversations about like who we were, how we grew up, and giving space. One thing I appreciate most about you is like you give everyone space to just be who they are, and like there's no pressure to perform or act like you're anything other than that. I know like a lot of our deepest conversations were like in my office at work, like being able to feel each other's feelings and be like, are you okay? Like, what's going on today? And having a safe space to actually be like, no, like, I'm not feeling this.
It's not right. So it's like, I think, like you was talking about how we met, but like through work, right? But also like beyond work, it's just been like, I am just honored that what you're doing as far as like shedding light to medical negligence.
Thank you.
You know, a lot of times when the whole world is going in one area, like they're listening to like you know, like, okay, police brutality is really important, and we understand that. But then throughout history, there's always going to be a little spotlight shedding light on another form of injustice that maybe people aren't hyper aware of. But it's still really important because, you know, my mom, and like I wrote a play about my mom. And now I'm writing a play about, like, not really about my dad, but I didn't realize how medical negligence in overprescribing medication to people who were addicts. That was something my dad dealt with. And, like, I am processing that, too, because it's like you also contributed to my dad's poor health. And, like, I just have memories of him, like, being, like, just so out of it because he would like take so many pills and just be like, I can just get more, more. And like it was like the strong stuff too. It wasn't like
and they do that like,
and we always had ibuprofen.
On purpose. Like these medical facilities get paid to write these prescriptions and especially will prescribe those stronger, more addictive medications to people who look like me and you at higher rates, knowing the damage that it can cause in our communities and to our bodies.
And there are records that my parents were both addicts in the 80s, and then they got sober. And so I remember when my mom was sick, they were trying to give her Oxy. And she was like, no, I'm an addict. Like, she had to advocate for herself, literally on her dying bed. And they was like, just trying to shut her up, basically, like they didn't care. Because you're not supposed to give people who struggle with addiction certain drugs because they can relapse. Like, you know, so
they don't care.
They don't care. No, it actually, they want to give those people because they're like, oh, they have a history of addiction.
And they're going to come back if they get hooked on it again, and we're going to get paid to continue to write these prescriptions instead of finding the root cause of their pain and trying to put them on a course that actually heals their body. Let me just give them like a Band-Aid, because we all know like those drugs take the pain away for a moment, but it does not solve what is actually going on in my body to try and figure out a way that I, one, no longer feel this pain, and two, have a healthier way of dealing with it so that I like don't have to keep coming back here. The goal is not to keep coming back to these facilities.
The goal is healing. The goal is healing. So I think I remember even in my interview when you were in there, I was just like so impressed with what you were saying and just what you were doing, and just thinking about how it would organically play a role in my writing and my artistry because of my experience with hospitals and my personal experience, but then also watching what my parents had been through, and then also like just what you went through. None of it is easy.
I remember when you told me that you were like you had written a play about your mom and her experience. I remember being like, I want to do that for my brother. Like, I would love to do that for my brother. And we were able to, like, do a documentary, which will be out soon. But I want to do, like, I would want to work with you and do a play. Because I just feel like that's a different audience, but also broadens the information and allows even more people to, one, see themselves in the work, but also get that information on how to deal with these situations, because unfortunately, like, medical negligence didn't end with your parents, it didn't end with my brother, and it continues to run rapid. And it's like, if we're not having these real conversations in multiple facets, and it's like somebody can still be touched by it.
Right. And also theater is it's life, right? It's alive. And so it's like your brother's story would live through the stage, and it's like, you know, that's the goal, and that's why I love theater. Like, you know, like there's like a big production aspect of it, but theater also, like I said, it's anywhere. You can put it in your backyard. You can put on a show anywhere, like, and so it's not always a matter of like having all these things. You can, like, there's this one writer her name's Maria Irene Fornes, and she was saying, like, she, as a playwright, she never saw the difference between being a playwright and a director. Like, and as she wrote, she was directing. And
that's real.
It's like the idea of like doing them both at the same time.
That's true.
And she was like, I wrote my first play because I had an ironing board, and so I made the main character somebody who ironed clothes, right? She just sort of like created something real life.
Because like you said, it's alive.
It's alive. Yeah. It's a real thing. So the idea of you bringing yourself into it makes it most important. But I love pieces that are talking about a historical moment that needs to be talked about, like for Colored Girls. When For Colored Girls came out, everything was like talking about like police brutality, and she was like, hey, something else we need, and Tazaki Shange said, something else that is a crisis to our people is the treatment of colored women. And we need to talk about how our sexuality has been abused and mistreated, and that is a crisis for us.
Hypersexualized, all those things. And I think that's real too, because like when I'm out protesting and having conversations about my brother and medical negligence, that is literally what I say is like, this world will have you thinking that we're only dealing with racism or discrimination in one area, which is most commonly police brutality. But I'm like, there's an overarching system.
That's
like
everywhere. I was just looking at someone's on TikTok saying like, oh, they were at the DMV and basically someone wrote them a note saying, hey, like, you should leave, you have a warrant.
Wow.
And they were like, I don't want to arrest you, I don't want to call you. And it's like, you go to the DMV, you can go. I was like watching a documentary about how black women would wake up, arrest, they would be handcuffed to their beds after giving birth. The white lady would have the baby, and taking the baby to and then they'd be taking the woman to jail because there was traces of like crack cocaine in her system, and that could have been from like over 9 months.
And that still happens to this day. And like, I call out the fact that like, it's in our policing system, it's in our judicial system, it's in our school systems, like it's in
the DMV.
It's in almost every system in America, because that is the roots of this country. And until we're able to chop down those roots and plant new trees and not just try to reform a system that's never going to be meant for us, and we're going to just continue to run into those same issues. Okay, so you mentioned having your own personal experiences outside of like watching what your parents went through. That makes me just kind of wonder what it was like for you dealing with mental health. And because you did disclose to me that you deal with ADHD, did that play any role in your experiences with mental health as well?
Yes, of course. Like, so I found out I had ADHD when I was probably 6 or 7.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So
that's young.
Yeah, and dyslexia. So I found out really young, and I had to do all the tests. They was just telling my mama like, girl, your daughter ain't doing, and I think that like it was just a lot of times, So I found out really young. So everybody in my family knew. Me and I had one other cousin. We were the only two who had been like diagnosed. So it was like the doctor said, the results are in, and so I feel like him and I got treated like we were like stupid almost.
Wow.
So that was like our like that was my encounter. Like I always felt stupid. Like I always got really bad grades, and my family just sort of treated me like I was dumb because I couldn't stay on topic when I had a conversation, or I was like here or there, like I was always all over the place. So I have 7 brothers and sisters, and so like I feel like my siblings for the most part, maybe with the exception of one, like they just made me feel stupid, and so I just kind of thought I thought that's what I just thought that ADHD meant that I was stupid. And then I was also a part of the public school system. Mind you, this is a time where like now they're starting to name it. Not that people hadn't been neurodivergent for forever, but they're starting to start, this is ADD, this is ADHD, this is dyslexia, like, and those sort of things, and like diagnose kids in the classroom who are struggling more than other kids. So by 5th grade, I had to like leave my traditional class to go to RSP.
Okay, yeah.
Which most of the kids in RSP were kids who were either ESL students, were like, you know, English second language students.
Yeah.
Or they were neurodivergent.
Yeah,
really.
On the spectrum.
They were on the, yeah.
You have from intellectual disability to autism to Asperger's.
Yeah, it was all in one room,
yeah.
and it was all ages from kindergarten to 8th grade.
Yeah,
and it was like like the teacher would just work on like nursery rhymes. It was like not stimulating. It was really just to get us out of the classroom and sort of be babysat, and it was just humiliating. And then all the school would say like, oh, RSP stands for really stupid people. And then I told my siblings, and so they were like, that's actually really funny. And so they started saying it at home.
And reinforcing that. Yeah.
Girl, so I really, by like 7th grade, I was like, I'm an idiot, and I'm never going to be, you know. And so now that like I have like all the things that,
exactly they would not have expected of someone.
Yeah, like, you know, it's like I have my master's degree, you know, I have like I went to school, got my bachelor's, did a minor.
Let alone it's just very intelligent. And
but that's the thing I didn't know. I realized that, like, I think that being neurodivergent as a kid was one experience. Yeah. But learning how to engage with it as an adult, I would say that as a kid, I was more accepted. Because kids think, you know, some kids might be like, okay, but most adults are the ones who are enacting violence toward me. Because kids be like, you're fun. Like, you know, like, I always have friends. Like, I never had, like, you know, I would probably be a little off, but most of the time, like, some of my friends would be neurodivergent. So I felt like more or less like I never felt like it was a struggle with my community, like my peers. Yeah. Like I never felt like anything that, you know what I'm saying? By like 7th grade, you know, when I start to really think about how people felt about me, I felt like I was fine. Like I felt really loved. Actually, when I moved to Oakland, I went to Calvin Simmons in 7th grade, and that was probably the first time I really was like, dang, like I got friends. Like I might be dumb, but at least I got people who mess with me and accept my dumb self. Like you know, so
that matters.
It really did. And so I feel like as a kid it was one experience, but then learning how to engage with this as an adult, because adults are not as they're not as charmed by it. They were the ones who were enacting violence on me when I was a kid. Yeah. So as an adult, it's even more like, okay, well, this is all cool and games. We can be with you and have fun with you until we can't. Until I got to remind you who's in charge. Yeah. And so for an adult, I feel like it's harder for me to engage with being neurodivergent in a world that's set up for like mostly neurotypical people, you know, like and it does play a role in my mental health. It makes me feel like I'm the odd one, like I have to catch up to the world. I have to like you know what I'm saying? I think
you have to be different than how you would show up just in your true authentic
I have to adapt all the time. I'm like constantly adapting. I'm constantly like I have to mirror image like normalcy. Yeah. Because I'm like, oh, if I really act like how I like, who knows, right? Yeah. Like I'm the loose cannon. But like when I'm in work setting, right, I'm mirroring. I'm like, okay, like Sharon does this, or like you know, so and so does that, so that it's like more pleasant for everyone, and that's more pleasant for me versus me getting talked to or sat down or challenged or anything like that because maybe I didn't understand something. Yeah. And it's like trying to tell people like, no, like I really don't understand. Like, I think differently than you in the way that most things are even set up in a line. So.
Wow, that's real. First of all, thank you for even sharing, because like that's a lot. That's a lot for your child self and your adult self to have to like carry and navigate every day, like you said. Especially for you as an adult still having to figure out those things and, like you said, do a lot of mirroring, which this is, you can tell me if I'm wrong, to me like would cause you to have questions about like, well, how am I outside of having to mirror, like who am I in like a space that I'm like most safe, most comfortable, and most accepted? Like, do you struggle with that, you know, at all, like kind of playing that balance?
Oh my gosh, all the time. I feel like it also social anxiety, it manifests as social anxiety, right? Because it's like when I go out and there's so many people and there's just so many things to do, it's like I'm like, oh, like like, it's just, my brain is just kind of going crazy. So I do struggle with, like, I struggle with, like, a lot of identity issues and, like, me being like, oh, I have to, like, make sure everyone around me is okay, because I also understand that my presence can make people feel uncomfortable in certain ways, which is crazy. But then I start noticing too, sometimes, like, when I'm around other neurodivergent people, it don't be that way. Like, but when I'm around neurotypical people, I do feel more so, like, it's like I gotta do a little bit more, like, you know, safeguarding.
Like restraining?
Yeah, 1000%. Yeah, like, and I've had issues where, you know, like, some of my neurotypical friends may, like, get mad at me for something that, you know, I did, and I really just was, like, trying to respond to the environment I was in, you know, like, I wasn't trying to hurt them or disrespect them. I was just like, oh, I didn't know how to be in that moment. And I think, like, now I'm 35, and now I'm able to say, oh, this was not a case of me doing too much. This was a case of me not knowing how to be. And in turn, maybe people felt a way about that, you know? And so, you know, but I think yoga has helped. Like, we're going into the mental health aspects. Yeah, me too. I really think that yoga teaches me how to be inside my body in this really unique and special way. Like, I just, like, have to engage with, like, literally the bottom of my feet, my calves, like parts of my body that I don't, the grounding, like that, like my neck, like every single part of my body, I have to feel it, and that allows for me to have to think about it, and that allows for me to be in my body in a way that I'm not always offered. And so, as far as getting to know myself versus, like, the mirroring, like, I think that now I'm just like, I just gotta listen to my body, and show up however I'm accepted, like, not how I'm accepted, but how I accept. I love that. I have to show up in my body and show up how I accept, and this is what it is, and, like, I have to accept that, you know. Kendrick has that line on Mr. Morales where he goes, if I didn't learn to love myself, forgive myself 100 times, like, and that's what I be thinking, like, it's like the world can have space to be mad at me as long as I'm showing mercy and grace to
I
myself.
was literally just gonna say that is, like, being okay with the fact that there's gonna be people who don't like me, people who do, people who love me, people who accept me, and people who don't, and being okay with that, knowing that if that's how y'all feel and I'm good with how I am, then I could care less. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, you came in by yourself, you're going to go out by yourself, and you're not going to be able to please everyone. And the people who, like, truly love you, who truly see you and love you for who you are in your most authentic state, you know, they'll understand. And they'll be able to show you that grace and that love that, like, everybody deserves to have.
That's so important. And it's not, like, not to say, like, because there's some times where being neurodivergent has made it hard for me to, like, climb at a job. Like, you know, like, I get looked over, or I get, you know what I'm saying? Like, or I get talked down to. Like, there's literally been times where I've been working since I was 16. I've been braiding since I was 14. So, like, getting paid to braid. So I've been making money for a long time. And there's been times where people do feel like, oh, I can talk to you in a way I wouldn't talk to somebody else. So on the one hand, there has to be a self-acceptance and advocating. Because I'm like, just because I think differently, you're not about to sit up here and talk to me the way you think you've been to, right? Like, there has to be so much advocating. And I haven't always advocated for myself. Like, and then there also has to be, like, because then there's like, I'm like, oh, well, you said this, so I have to, like, change in these ways and And it's a professional environment, so I have to, like, make sure I'm respecting you and blah, blah, blah. Like, I remember I had a boss cuss me out, cuss me out, like, and use cuss words, cuss me out, because I was helping a customer on the phone for too long. And it was... And I knew he wouldn't do that to anyone else. It was just me. And I knew he was probably even mad about something else, but he took it out on me. And I feel like I believe that a lot of neurodivergent people go through that where they're at work. And they're like, oh, I noticed that you all get treated, but when I do that same thing, I'm penalized for it. And so, you know, I think it's like, it's bullying, and I don't like it. It's like...
No, that is most definitely bullying, and I think, unfortunately, like, the world has this idea that different equals wrong. And it's like, no, different is just different.
Or
like, everyone
has to change.
I was going to say, or something to change, and it's like, no. everybody is different in their own ways, in their own aspects, and it's like, just because I do something this way doesn't mean you're wrong and have to follow suit on my way for it to be right and acceptable. It's like, if we're both going to the same like means to an end and you go about it this way and we both get to the same destination
is there, right? And it's hard, like it's the desire to control, really. It's like it's just, it's weird. It's like we see it with kids, right? We see how some people can come in and they'll sit with the kids and get to know them and like sort of treat them based on a one-on-one, like their engagement, the connection that they have with each kid. And then we see people who come in and they're in front and they're like, to do what I say because I'm the adult and you need to respect me.
Don't ask me any questions because I say so.
Because I say so, adults, right? And so we see those different, you know what I'm saying? Like, in how people engage, it's the desire to control. The expectation that, because I was little and adults treated me that way, I am now the adult, so I get to be, and it's not always the case, and it should never be the case. And I think that a lot of times, adults, and not like people who are neurotypical, like they feel that same way toward. They're like, "Well, you great, but you a little off. I need to fix you so you less off.
So that you're more digestible. And more receivable for others." And it's like, how about I just make sure I'm good and receivable for my own self first. Like, you know what I mean? That way, when I do stand up in front of this large crowd, like, I'm not affected if somebody is like, but about who I am. Like, if there's a but about who I am, then, like, that's your own problem. That's not my problem.
And if I'm harming you, I'm willing to fix it. So, like, because also I feel like I think really, like, ABC. Like, I think very, like, if you can explain something to me in a way that I can understand. Like, I know that sounds like most people, but no, like, if you say something very clearly, Lily, you are always late when we hang out and it makes me feel like you don't value my time. If you can't be on time to hang out, then we can find something else to do. Right? Like, because that makes me feel like you don't care about my time. I promise you, every time I hang out with that person, I will not be late. I will not be late. I will be like, okay, I'll tell you 11:30, and in my head, it'll be 11. Because I don't want you to feel like I'm disrespecting you because I value you. And that's just because my brain can be really literal, but that bothers people. They're like,
But that's also how like intentional friendship and genuine care for others should be. Like if somebody tells you like something that you're doing is affecting me in a negative way and you actually care for and love this person like you say you do, your actions should align with that. So I think like that you being able to have the self-awareness to understand that about yourself, but also really hear what someone is, it's hard to take in constructive criticism.
It is.
And like it's hard to hear like that you hurt somebody that you care about. But so many people will let the ego get in the way and be like, well, like then we just won't hang out no more.
No, that's been my experience though. Like I feel like when I do call folks out on things, they want to not be my friend, or like
that ain't a real friend.
No, I know, and it's like that's fine. Like, but it's again, it's the control. It's like, hey, it's okay for me to tell you what you was doing wrong, or when I do call out a friend and then they take that as an opportunity to call me out on something that got nothing to do with it.
Which is crazy because if that is not like a form of manipulation, then I don't know what.
I always have to be like, thank you, but that's you not. You can bring that up tomorrow because I'm the one who like mustered up the courage to talk to you about this thing. It's been really hard on me.
And if you've been sitting in your feelings about this that long, then you can continue to sit in that for a little bit longer. And like we've had misunderstandings, we've had challenges that we've had to work through, and like imagine if it was like, oh well, the moment we had some form of conflict, then we're not cool no more. And it's like, no, that ego has to it has to be thrown out the way if you want to continue to have authentic and real friends. Because like, what is friendship and what is grace if you can't hold me accountable?
Right. It's basically saying, I don't see you.
I don't see you, and what I say and how I feel is the only thing that matters in this situation. And that to that point, it's like, then this is not a friendship. No. A friendship is a quid pro quo. Like there's something to gain from each of us. And if you're the only one gaining something off of me, then like you don't really care about me. You're just using me to make yourself feel better in certain moments. Okay, so like given everything that you just explained, what it was like as a child, how it is as an adult, still having to navigate all of these spaces and feelings and things like that. If you could like describe in one word how little Lily felt in these moments and with these experiences?
One word, just one word.
Well, however, but yes.
Okay,
if you had to sum it up.
Sum it up. If I was to sum it up, I would say it made me feel isolated. It made me feel, I think isolated and creative are the two words.
Okay.
Because when something kind of negative happens, there's gonna be a reaction.
Yeah.
And for me, my reaction was more, I always led to like creativity. Like I like to be thinking about like when I was like 10 years old, we lived in these apartments and there was a palm tree in the middle and I like slept in front of the palm tree one time. Like just because I wanted to be outside and my mom was so embarrassed, like I got a whooping.
Oh no.
But I like was different. I felt isolated. I didn't want to be in the house with everybody. I wanted my own space, even if it meant me sleeping on the tree.
I feel that. That's how my brother literally would sleep outside. Rain, shine, it did not matter.
I don't know why.
He was completely content there.
Yes. I was
it's freezing out there. What are you doing?
I just didn't feel a part of my family for some years, and so like I was grateful for friends sometimes, but like sometimes I would not have a lot of friends, so I just would like be alone. And like I'm learning even now at 35 how to be alone. Like, you know.
Girl, me too.
So I think the isolation like was something that I was like learning, like being like growing in me as a child. But then creativity always stemmed from that, and it's really beautiful.
I was just gonna say, I think that's beautiful that you were able to take what some it was negative experiences where some would stay there, but you were able to turn that into something beautiful, and that helped you be able to express yourself freely and know who you are. It just reminds me of like that image of that flower going through the concrete. You know what I mean? Is that the same feeling that's produced like today and like as an adult, or has that shifted?
I feel like it's shifted a lot because I've lived more life after those seasons in my life, right? Because like I'm like there's my early 20s who I have to have a lot of grace for, like who just thought she knew everything. You know, like she knew a lot, and she got me to where I'm at today. So she did know a lot, but it still like she didn't know a lot, and so there was like a lot, like there's a lot of me that I'm like caring for, and like those are all my inner children, right? Like so like especially as a woman who don't have children, so it's like how I take care of myself. Like sometimes when I do go to work, I'll dress in an outfit that I would have wore as a child, or something that I would have wanted to wear, but
because too afraid of the social,
or just couldn't afford it because I was, you know, like my mom was like, I ain't buying you those heels. Like I wanted to dress like Spice Girls as a kid. Period. So I was like,
and your outfits do be like Spice Girls, and I be loving it. So
the thick boobs, you know, like so. I was like the little like little butterflies, like I will wear stuff. So there's always moments for me to like properly love my inner child. And I had like great parents, so you know my parents they like always say like if there's like 6 core things that a parent needs to provide, my parents had like 4 or 5 of them. Like they was doing good in a lot, but a lot of their issues, my parents my mom's. She suffered from bad anxiety. I mean, terribly bad anxiety. And my dad, he was like claustrophobic, and he had really bad depression. Like, disgusting depression. And so they both had those in them, but they were together and they were working it out together, and like, you know,
battling that out.
They were figuring it out. Like they were
and still showing up for you.
You know, so I feel like with my parents, they were trying their best, and a lot of their issues was like, you know, at the time I would get mad, but when I got older, I was like, they were just poor. Like,
girl, there's a lot of like money cannot buy happiness, but money can change the situation.
Try me.
Yes.
Try me.
Like what? There's so many things that were simply because we did not have the means. Yes.
We were just poor, and so my family just. You know, like my family, they was just poor. They was just systematically working class, like working poor, as to say, paycheck to paycheck.
Something out of nothing.
We got evicted a lot. Like, you know, we was we only left the Bay because we couldn't afford it. We was a part of that first round. Not the first, but like the early around the early 2000s of people who were like, I can't afford to be here, you know. So my whole family moved to Sac. And like I feel like I was trying to stay here so bad.
Yeah, Sac is just different.
I'll just put this on record, and I'm okay with it. I hate Sac. I hated Sac. I love the people there, and still like it's so country. It's so it's Trump town, and it's just definitely not for me. And I would hate it when I was there. I would always come back out here to be with my family.
There's just nothing like the Bay.
It really is not.
Okay, so like speaking of your parents, I know you mentioned that they both were dealing with mental health concerns as well as addiction. I know you have lost both of your parents. How old were you when you lost your mom versus when you lost your dad?
So when I lost my dad, I was 28.
Wow.
And then when I lost my mom, I was 32.
So young, yeah. That's how old I am right now, and I couldn't
Don't imagine. It's terrible. It's the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
I wouldn't wish it on anybody.
Yeah.
And for me to have lost, like, I feel like when my dad passed away, I still have my mom, but I was like relying on her heavy. Like if I miss my dad, like I remember one time I called my mom in a parking lot. Like all my friends was inside eating some like food, and I was like, I'll be right back. And I just broke down in the parking lot, and I called my mama. So I had my mom, but now I don't have my. I'm grieving both of them. Yeah. You know, because I didn't know that I was putting it on her, and I was like, at least I still have her. And then,
holding on tight.
And and then she passed. Like I would like have a question about my dad. I was like, was Dad proud of me? You know, like, but now I don't have it. I have to ask like myself or my auntie or somebody certain questions. But it really is. It's different, and at this age, mid-30s, like I didn't know that I would need my parents
as much. We think as soon as we hit 18, girl, that we just, I'm gonna be fine on my own and this and that. And I'm like, I call my mom like almost every, like, you know what I mean? Yes. Like my mom and my grandma. So
I still listen to the voice messages and look at the text messages and the Facebook messages, everything, because those are my memories of them now. But
we always need our parents.
I need them now so much. Like I need them.
Speaking of mom, my watch called my mom.
It hurt you.
Like that is crazy.
Hello, and she picked up.
Yeah, I'm like
she picked up.
Well, I'm gonna hold on, y'all. She's calling. My watch called you because I said mom, but I'm recording a podcast with Lily right now.
Oh, okay.
Okay, bye.
Period.
That's how much I called my mom, and my watch was like, yes, he got. But no, like first of all, thank you for sharing, because I know like in the conversations that we've had that those two experiences and losing them at such a young age and still having to navigate life has shifted your whole world.
Everything.
And like how has those two major losses like affected your mental health?
Oh my God, it's terrible. It's terrible. It's terrible. Literally, like I was already struggling with mental health issues, right? And then I remember like though there was like 2 months before my dad died, I felt like life was perfect. It was crazy. And then it was just downhill from there. Like it was just like a moment of like I had it. I was like in undergrad, like I was, everything felt perfect. I had friends. I was understanding what I wanted to do and who I was, and I was writing this play. And my dad got to see both my parents. They drove all the way to Irvine to see my play from Sac. They drove all the way to Irvine to see Comb Your Hair or You'll Look Like a Slave. And it was the first play I like produced it, and like I directed it with another young lady who was very talented, and like we put together to me it was like the beginning of me being like, oh, I'm also a producer. It was just really cool. My parents was like impressed. I was glad that I got to impress them.
So you answered that for yourself. You knew your dad was proud of you.
Oh, 1000%. He told me all the time. Like he was always telling me how proud he was of me, how much he loved me. my mom told me after, like, she was like, yo, you got other kids? Because he was like, I was just doing something so different. Yeah, like, I was just doing something so different that he was like, wow. Like, and it was really, that production itself was really beautiful, and every production that I've done after, where, like, you know, I wrote a play about my parents, like, as they were alive, I would take notes on stuff they said, and I, like, kind of comprised it all into this play. Dope. And my mom came to the show for when I graduated from grad school. I didn't walk the stage. I had my own graduation where I played these 2 plays. And my mama came up to the lead actress after she said, you was me. And then she said, but I don't be doing all of that though. And it was like, you know, just having that. So, like, my parents lived through my work. And so, you know, but it's terrible. Like, it's terrible. It's the worst thing ever. I had a great relationship with both of my parents. So, you know, not to say it wasn't like I said, there's 5, there's 7 things, you know, they're human and they was figuring it out, but at the end of the day, they was they were my friends too, like they were my family. They connected me to my family. I always tell my therapist, like, I feel like I'm a kite and they wanted me to fly, but they were my anchor. And now I don't have an anchor, and I feel like I'm just in the wind. And sometimes, like, the kite needs to come down to the ground to wound itself and to refine its rhythm. And I lost that, and that's what I feel like I lost, losing my parents. And after I lost my parents, like, my therapist had told me, she said, Lily, every relationship hereafter will be reevaluated, right? And I kind of I'm a loyal friend, so I was like, no, everybody in my life will be there forever. Like, they love me. And I literally started losing friends left and right. And it was like, yo, when you lose your parents, anybody else, bye. Like, you bye. But I done already lost my mama. What do you mean?
What else? Like,
bye.
What else do I have to care?
Like, I mean, I'm still grieving my natal connection. But bye. Like, be happy and be healthy. Do what you gotta do. Like, I had to literally reevaluate every relationship, how it made me feel, how I wanted to move in it, because I lost my anchor. So now I'm changed. So everything changed. And it's not no one's fault. It's me in my life, but it's just me. That's just, it is what it is. You know, it ain't what it ain't. So I feel like losing my parents, I literally lost friends. I lost family members. Like, it was a lot of reevaluating. And it was hard. It is hard. It doesn't get less hard. No. It doesn't get less hard.
That's definitely like a misconception about grief. Is that, okay, you go through the 7 steps and now, like, you're no longer grieving. You're dealing with grief after a loss, especially major losses like that, for the rest of your life. You just learn how to sit with it. You learn how to live through it. But it never goes away. And I think, you know, they always say, like, oh, time heals all wounds. Not necessarily. No. Like, some of those wounds stay open. You just learn how to nurse them, you know? And I think, I can't relate to your specific experience, but I know, like, in just dealing with losing my brother in the way that I did, it's something that you don't get over one day. Like I said, you just learn how to live with that pain and to find the beauty where you can within that. And what I want you to know, though, is that, like, in knowing who you are and seeing how you move in the world, I can definitely tell that, like, your parents were beautiful people with beautiful souls who loved you and let you know that you were loved. Because even without having your anchor, like, you're still doing so much good in this world and loving people so authentically. And I just think if they weren't who they were, then you wouldn't be that without them, you know?
True. So, it's I sometimes have to keep pushing forward, knowing that I'm them combined.
Yeah, that part.
Like, I'm my mama and my
the
daddy.
Best of each
and maybe the worst. You know, but it's like I can deal with it. I'm grateful for it all. Like, that's them. That's what they was bringing to the table, and that's who I am.
Don't want to be anything but
like they were impressed because they remember, like, my parents. I was just talking about how, as a kid, because I have ADHD, and I'm the baby at 8, like, my parents would be like, this is my baby, you know? And that would be like having my brothers and sisters like, she's spoiled.
Tell me about it.
She annoying, da, 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 da. And it's like they would treat me worse, and so it's like they would treat me terribly, and their excuse was, well, mom and dad gonna treat you better.
Yeah.
And my parents was like, well, you're treating her so terribly.
Yeah,
like
that we...
And she had, and so it was like this sort of cat and mouse kind of thing. And so, like, I felt like even though I didn't get the treatment that I deserved from my siblings, I was always, like, really comfortable and connected to both of my parents.
Yeah.
Like, I slept in the same bed with my parents today. Like,
girl, see, that's why we were able to get along so well, because my dad was not in my life. You know, I was raised by my mom and my grandparents, but I slept in the same bed with my mom until I was, like, in middle school, and then we shared a room all through high school, and I was breastfed till I was 4. So me and my mom were like, it's like, yeah, the connection is different, and it's strong, and it's something that, like, it remains that way. So I can definitely understand you being like, no, these were my people.
These were they were my, I have a connection with them. Like, I always talk to my friends, and I'm like, have you ever saw your dad cry?
Right.
Like, I always ask people.
Yeah.
And they usually the answer would be like once, or maybe like not really, or no, like you know. And it's like, dang, because my daddy, he used to cry all the time.
See, I love that.
Yeah, he cried all the time, and it just made me feel like at the time I would be like, I would feel bad for him.
No, yeah.
But when I got older, I'm grateful for that experience now, especially now that he's not alive, because I saw his humanness. Exactly. I saw his tears, like, and the things that he cried about. Like, I saw him be a human, and it was beautiful.
Especially as a black man.
Yeah, and I was young too, like,
rare and underappreciated. But I feel like that also, like, gives you permission to be that real person.
And I think that, like, just like it allowed for me to just have a dad that was, like, vulnerable and kind and sweet, and, like, that's also masculinity.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying? So for me, even how, like, when I think, like, you know, when I date, like, like, then my mom, and you know what I'm saying? Like, just on GP, like, just on principle, like, just based off, like, I don't, like, it's like, you don't cry? Like, what?
Hello?
Like, that's weird.
You don't have
like,
feelings?
Because I have,
emotions?
Even my brothers, they were all, like, very emotional. Like, my family, like, my brothers, they were really emotional. Like, I remember them, they're fighting and crying over, like, boxers and socks. Like, for real, like, that's emotional.
Yeah, it's
fighting and anger is emotion. So
it is.
I grew up in a really emotional house. Like, when we happy, we jump up and down. We screaming, we running up and down stairs and knocking on doors. Like, you know, like,
living life to the max.
Just feeling our emotions, you know. So I feel like growing up, seeing both my parents, my mom and my dad, be just, like, very, like, vulnerable and emotional and talk about things to us, like, that just let me see them now, like, or help me accept them now as humans and like as people. Like, they were my parents, but they were human parents. Like, they were real people, and they just happened to have children.
Some parents shield those things or hide those things from their kids, and sometimes, and in a lot of cases, it's good for your kids to see that you're not perfect and that you don't have it all together. And it's not
even, but crying is perfect. I would argue, like, it's like that is probably one of the more perfect things I've seen them do. It's not that they weren't being. It's like, you should cry if your mom just died.
Yes.
Like, you know, like, you should cry if you're angry about getting treated or being arrested. Like, I would see my dad get arrested all the time. Like you, that should real. Make a person want to cry. Like, it's weird if you don't cry. Actually,
no facts.
Like, it's that cry. It just was like, it gave me, like, they're human. They're not just like be a parent, pay for
exactly. They taught you how to show emotion and to not run from it, which can cause, like, deeper mental health concerns. It's like running from those emotions instead of sitting in them and being in tune with them, and, like, knowing that, like, it's okay to sit in these emotions. And, like, there is not one emotion. I think I talked about this on the last episode. Like, there isn't one emotion that's, like, better or than the other. And I think sometimes the world teaches us, like, it's only okay to feel happy or sad, but to get out of our anger as soon as possible or whatever. There's just a huge spectrum of emotion. And I think we're only taught surface level sometimes. And it's like, there's so many layers to what you're feeling on the top that if you took time to, like, really sit in it and be okay in sitting in it, you would really be able to tap into, like, the root of what you're actually feeling. Thank you for sharing about your parents. So I heard you mention like therapy and going to therapy, have a therapist. Like, what kind of helped you make that decision to tap into therapy, which is like a taboo thing for the Black community?
I think that what made me tap into therapy was, at the time I was living in a house with people who were like in therapy, like my housemates were in therapy, and they were not Black. And I remember just like listening to them like talk about therapy, and I'm like, that's stuff I talk about with my friends.
Yeah.
And so it kind of made me feel like, I guess it was taboo in a way.
Yeah.
Because I was be like, I think that if people had better friends, then they would need less therapy. And like, I had people tell me like, no girl, like you can't expect your friends to help you, and that's not their responsibility. Like, it's good that you have that right now, but. And so then I feel like right before, like the year before, I went to community college for 4 years. So it was like the fourth year I was in community college. I was getting ready to transfer to undergrad. And that's when I went that year. That was the first year I went to therapy. And my therapist was okay. Yeah. I felt like, at the end of the day, I felt like I was oversharing. Like, that's another
therapy.
That's another ADHD thing. It was like most of the time I never, that's why I have social anxiety, because I never know if I'm, like, again, is this normal? Like, what do people talk about? But I was oversharing in my normal life, and I felt like whatever I would share, people would like feel awkward or uncomfortable. So I thought that going to therapy would just give me a space to overshare in a safe environment. Yeah. And so I went to therapy, and my first therapist was okay. And then when the pandemic happened, I got another therapist. That was probably one of the worst times of my life. And it was like at the beginning where they were like, there's rumors to shut things down. Like, I had like got an email getting like laid off from my job and all the things to do.
Up all the toilet paper.
It was right then where it was like people are dropping dead in other countries. Like this is like, I was scared. And I remember I was going through a breakup, and me and my ex was living in the same house at the same time. So I was just going through a lot, and I literally went to therapy. And I remember my first session, I cried. I cried the whole time. Yeah. I cried the whole entire time. And then I was trying to quote, like, because I brought my book. I had a book that I wanted to reference how I felt. It was like, I think it was a poem by either Nikki Giovanni or like somebody, but I was like I was trying to read it, and my therapist at the time was just like, it's okay, like let's take a deep breath, like we kept having to breathe. And I think so for me, I think one of the things, like I would try to get my mom to come to therapy with me, like, and she was trying to get, we can talk about Kaiser, but like she was trying to get therapy with Kaiser. It never came through. Impacted, It was so bad, like, but it was like, I was glad that she even tried. Yeah. But because I was in therapy, and I was like, I wanted her to go. Yeah. I wanted her to be in therapy. But yeah, I think that for me, it really is like having somebody to talk things through. I didn't know at the time. I was going to therapy twice a week after my mom died. Sometimes 3 times a week. No, facts. And I like used up all my therapy with insurance. Oh yeah. So like once it was over and I couldn't get it, I remember developing an inner therapist voice that didn't happen until after therapy. I was so grateful for it. Like just the thought of asking questions and like the being like, like well, what made you feel that way? Yeah. Like, and it was like, okay, thank you. So I think that for me, it's just, it helps me feel more grounded. And, you a Sagittarius, I'm an Aries, we're ultimate crash outs. Like, we're, the fire signs are known to crash out on every, and I think that just therapy, I went to anger management in high school too, which is another form of therapy. But I have issues with managing anger, because anger isn't really supposed to be managed. Exactly. It's supposed to be engaged with. It's telling us something. Exactly. But I think all these things have helped me develop a relationship with alternatives, and then I'm angered of like, okay, I could ram my car into this car, or I can think about how like the entirety of driving is unsafe, and how like, or whatever. Like I have to think of like all these other ways that help soothe me and make me not like crash out. as much as I would probably normally do.
Girl, you ain't said nothing.
No, I know.
I'm like, I can definitely understand. And it's, one, thank you for sharing, because, like, I didn't experience therapy until I lost my brother either. And dealt with the same with Kaiser, with it being their mental health department just being super impacted. They put me in this program that was trying to, like, speed track my grieving and healing, and it just wasn't it. And then after that, it was like, oh, you can go once a month. And I'm like, that's not, I need more than that right now. And I couldn't even connect with the therapist that it was. But someone, like, gave me information on Women of Color Therapy. It's an organization, and all the therapists are women of color, and that's what they specialize in. And so I paid out of pocket to go, and found a therapist that, like, I could really connect with, who was a Christian like me. We were able to talk about our beliefs, and I helped, like, my mom started going, because I was like, no, like, it was such a moving experience for me, where it helped me grow my emotional intelligence. It helped me, like you said, be able to think through situations and to ground myself. I started dealing with anxiety and really bad PTSD after my brother. And so just all the techniques and the tools that I could use to kind of just feel safe again, because I was just so frantic and feeling so in fight or fight the entire time.
Right.
And so now when I tell people, I'm like, please go to therapy. Like, you don't have to go just because you have an issue or you experience trauma. You can go simply because life is a lot. It's a lot to deal with. It's a lot to carry. And just therapy is if you find the right therapist, at least, a safe space where you don't have to worry about them holding it against you or being like, no, remember you did this and you said that. Like, and those things can play a part when you're only talking to friends or family. And sometimes you want to talk badly about the people you care about and not have to worry about how it's going to make them feel. Just get it off your chest. And therapy has been that for me, and I know for a lot of other people. And I think it's funny that you're like, I was crying at first, because I tell people, like, the first however many sessions of therapy, you're going to be in there boo-hoo crying. Like, and then,
or, like, scared.
Or
like,
scared,
like,
yes. Or, like, not ready to embrace it. Or just boohoo crying, or a mixture of both. And I remember the first day, like, I was just crying.
Right.
I could barely talk crying, and my therapist just gave me space to do that. And so I tell people, like, just be prepared, and it's okay. If you're just crying, like, because it's okay to just cry. Right. But I remember, like, the first session where I was like, oh, I didn't cry the whole time. I was actually able to talk. We actually had a dialogue. It wasn't just me crying for an hour on their couch, And then it just continued, from there. And it's not to say that I just, like, stopped crying, but I was able to begin expressing and sit in my emotions in a way that just was different. And I feel like therapy not only was good for me to be able to express, but I learned a lot. And it's helped me in how I navigate relationships and how I communicate now in a more, like, intuitive way. And I'm able to, before I get to my limit, recognize those signs and be like, I actually cannot continue this conversation right now. It's not because of you, it's because of myself.
Right.
And, like, I want to have this conversation with you, but I want to be in the right space so that, one, I can hear you, and one, that I can express myself the way I originally wanted to express myself.
Right.
That is, like, big for me. Yes. And, like, they're so easy to get so caught up in the emotion that we're not even saying what we came here to say.
Right.
We're just working off the emotion. And I want to say what I came here to say, because it was very important, and I want you to be able to hear it and receive it, and it not be disrespectful, because, like you said, as a fire sign, I can cut with my words. I don't have to cuss you out in order to cuss you out.
Right.
And so, like, therapy was not, like I said, and I hope whoever's, watching this episode learns or takes in that, like, therapy is not just a space to express and to get things off your chest. It's also to gain things in a new perspective or way to navigate life as you're also dealing with, like, emotion and mental health. So, like, that for me was, like, the biggest takeaway, is how I wanted to be after experiencing trauma and PTSD.
Right. It's therapy. It's like the paying attention to something and seeing how we can work it out.
Yeah, like diving deeper, because that's, like, where true healing happens. Is when you actually go below the surface. And I thought, like, I was going to therapy just to talk about my brother, but so many other things came up. Relationships, childhood things, like expectations that I had either placed on myself or felt like were being placed on me, and how I carried those. Just all of those things. I'm like, I thought I was just coming here to talk about my brother. Guy.
No,
like, I didn't know I was going to talk about 10-year-old me.
Right.
Like, who, like, was whatever, this sports was it like sports was my identity. I didn't know I was going to be talking about that in therapy. Like, there's just so many things that were broken down that helped me heal in ways that, like, you didn't even know that you maybe needed healing, or to talk about things that you didn't even know were on your mind.
Especially how often something may come up.
Yes.
Oh, I keep talking about this one thing.
Exactly. Like, in their therapist, like, I heard you mention this multiple times.
Right.
Let's come in, like you said, to unpack that. And you can start learning some little therapy work. Keep that in the suitcase.
Right. Keep it packed.
No, but I think it's beautiful that you are able to speak freely about the fact that, like, you had these experiences, you went through these big losses with losing your mom and dad, and you also were able to kind of get over that hurdle of mental health and therapy being taboo, and let me tap into this and see what it does for me. And it seems like you're still navigating therapy and still going, and like has that been like good for you, or something that you plan to continue doing even past whatever
I'm in therapy now. I go to therapy every week. It's really helpful. I love going. I love going because I really value my therapist, but it's not always easy. Like it's sometimes like I might talk about something for 45 minutes, and then the last 50 minutes I'm like, oh yeah, and I forgot to tell you blah 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 blah, and we can talk about it next week. And then I'm like trying to get out of there so fast, like like it's like all what comes up. And I think like there's certain things that I feel really shameful for talking about in my community, that in therapy I'm able to just talk about it, and it's just like that alone is helpful. And then my therapist, she's like super like, let's pull some cards. Like,
it's so important to find a therapist for you.
Right, and I always tell people, like, I have friends who be like, oh, I tried a therapist, it just, I didn't like them, or like, I feel like I'm better with books or whatever, and I'm like, I love books, so, but also, like, if you go on a bad date, do you just say, I'm never gonna date? Like, just like you gotta find the right right doctor, like, you gotta find the right people for you. That's the same with therapy. Like, you can't just accept the first person to give you all the time.
I went through 2 before I found the one for me. And it's been a few years now, and we're locked in. Like, that's my girl. You gotta make sure you find who's right for you and who can help you. Like, I know and then there's therapists that they specialize in different things, you know? And then also too, think about it. You're meeting with this person for what, about 50 minutes to an hour every week. How long does it take for you to get to know somebody? It takes a long time, and it's a working relationship. It's not just like it's also a service. You're paying them to get something, but you gotta sometimes tell them, like, oh, normal. Like, I've had to tell my therapist, hey, I know that you said this to try to help, but that made me feel more anxious. Yeah. Because I have to teach them how to be in therapy with me too. Yeah. They're following guidelines in a past from different clients, right? That's true.
But I'm a person who, so sometimes my therapist might hurt my feelings or say something that I don't agree with, and I can say that.
Exactly.
It's me. I'm telling you how I want you to engage with me. And so I feel like it's like learning how to be in therapy too. There's this really great book. So I think I got it for you. It's called You Get What You Pay For.
Yes.
Yeah, that book is about therapy, and I think that everybody should read it. I feel like it talks about just being a black woman and going to therapy, and like having, therapists that's really great versus the ones that are not so great, coupled with what's going on in the world and how that alone is impacting how we as black women are in therapy. Because sometimes we may just sit in there and talk all about like the recent blah 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 that just happened, or the fact that blah 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 is saying this, or like any of those things, and they have huge impacts on us. And so that book really just highlights these different things that help. Like, one of the things that the book highlighted was the idea of being perpetually single. And like, that was something I was able to bring up to my therapist, because I didn't have language for it for so long, because I'm like more single than I date. Like, I'm usually really single. Like, I've always been, even like growing up when my friends was having boyfriends, I was playing with Barbies. Like,
I feel it.
But I like didn't know that there was language to it until I like read this book. You Get What You Pay For. It's so good. It's all about therapy and about being a black woman. It's by Morgan Parker, and like the essay format's really like highlight just these sort of like one-timey sort of things in a way that I'm like, I went to therapy for that too.
Right.
Like, you know, like
you'll realize that like you're not we think we're alone in certain struggles or situations, and it's like the more you talk about it and you're open about it, you find out that like there's thousands of other people that have gone through something similar, and if we don't talk about it, we don't know that there's a community there. So that's real. Yeah. Dang. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for like being here. Thank you for driving the way to get here.
Yes, thank you for dinner.
No,
yes.
Anytime. Thank you for just sharing and being real and raw and like not being afraid to talk about what is, like we said, seen as taboo or seen as like I don't want nobody up in my business situation. You know what I mean? Especially as a Black woman, and just not always knowing how that's going to be received. But like not caring about that, or not letting that stop you from being who you are, sharing your experiences, because I know there's going to be someone who can relate, take something from what you've shared, and grow and like be a better person for it, or have a different mindset on their situation and have hope and knowing that like, okay, well, if Lily can not only lose her father but also lose her mother in
and
her sister in a short time frame from each other, and still show up for herself and for the ones that she loves with a mindset that's still focused on love and a heart posture that's still like graceful, then maybe I can too one day. Maybe not right now, but I have hope that maybe I can one day. So thank you.
Yes.
I have two questions.
Okay.
One is like, is there any like tips or just anything that you want people to take away from you and your story?
I think that the one thing I would like for folks to take away is that like the hero needs healing too. Like you can be healing as you're going through your hero story. Like it doesn't have to be like once you heal you become like better for people. Like as you're figuring it out, you can still do great things, heroic things, like historical things that people will talk about, and you're still figuring it out. Like you can do good things while you figure things out. Like you can still heal as you find your hero.
Because there is no heroism. There is no perfect anybody.
No.
And there's definitely not the perfect leader or hero or any of that.
No.
We, except for Jesus, we ain't Jesus. You know what I mean? So as human beings, like all the people that we look up to now from like history, they were all going through something too. And they were who they are still today.
Yeah, you can be effective and you can be hurt. And like, like you can still heal as you're effective. Like it doesn't have to
take that with me.
Yeah, for sure.
That's real. It's like you don't have to be perfect in order to have an impact.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And so I think that like just thinking about my relationship with how like I am in theater, like it's like I feel like sometimes I'm like I am doing something that's great.
Yeah.
But also I'm like, is it great enough? And it's like both can be like I can be doing something that in 50 years some grad student want to dig up and read it. You never know. And so it's like, but at the time like I might be like oh, like I just wrote that real quick or whatever. Like it's like you never know. And so it's like just because I can't see how I'm helping people. Because I'm healing and I'm growing in my artistry, like that doesn't mean that it's not doing it. It's like I can heal and grow at the same time.
That's facts. I can definitely relate to that because like 5 years ago or 6 years ago, me would have never thought that I would be able to say the things that I've been able to do today 6 years ago, just in being a hurt sister who lost her brother to an unjust system and was like not going to be afraid to speak on that. I would have never thought just telling the truth in my experience would have gotten me to the point where I'm able to help others or be a hope for others or any of that. You know what I mean? Like I think like maybe 3 years ago I was like, I'm going to do a documentary on my brother, just talking, and like now I can say that I've done that and I'm still hurt, I'm still healing, I'm still grieving, and I'm still learning and growing all in like one. They're not like these separate things that I can only do one at a time. It's happening like all together, and it's a beautiful process. Like it's not an easy process, but there's beauty in all of it, which is all glory and grace to God, because okay, my last question, which I be forgetting to do, so I'm glad I remembered to do it with you, is to end like on a positive, happy, upbeat note, you know? So I'm gonna ask you like 4 questions.
Okay.
So hot or cold?
Like drinking or?
Climate.
Climate. I would say hot.
Okay. Night or day?
Night.
Breakfast or dinner?
Breakfast. And
then beach or mountains?
Mountain.
Period. Okay. All right, y'all. Well, thank y'all for tuning in. This was very special to me. This was definitely something that I know that many of you will be able to relate to, and I hope that you take something from this episode, because I definitely have. Shout out to Lily for being here. Like I said, y'all at home, we gonna give her a round of applause. Thank you for coming to the couch today.
Thank you for having me.
So we are gonna end this episode the way that we always do. So in the words of my late great brother Sean E. Washington II, take a deep breath, close your eyes. Take a deep breath and reflect. Most of the time, things work out fine if you just relax your mind. Make sure you tune into this podcast on YouTube, and we are now on Spotify, so check us out at Queen Renny Barnes or The Real and the Raw with Queen Renny. I am wishing you nothing but love and support for the rest of your week. Sending peace and love. Queen Renny out.